When we talk about the change makers, I talked about innovative ship owners and builders. We also talked about cutting-edge technology companies, regulators. One thing I didn't mention, events. Now, the Macondo certainly was a change-making event. I think that's something that we can all agree on, and a very expensive one for those involved into it. Very quickly, as the panelists are making their way here, what did you learn from the Macondo operation? What can we bring forward in the future?
Well, thank you, Todd, for that question. I don't know if I'm on here yet. All right, good. Well, there really, I suppose there are three key things, or three key takeaways for the Coast Guard. The first is that we learned a very different definition of disaster response. What we thought of as an oil spill response was really a response to a major disaster that affected a number of different industries, a number of different population centers, and was far more than simply cleaning up a bad oil spill, and it was a bad oil spill. We also learned that these dramatic changes to the offshore industry that had occurred to some extent without our direct knowledge and oversight. And I don't mean from the standpoint of irresponsibly so. It's just that the rapid changes in the offshore industry, I think, and the challenges and risks associated with drilling at such extreme depths weren't really apparent to us as an oversight agency before the event. And then finally, the need to cooperate with those other regulatory agencies in the U.S. government to close any gaps that there may be between their oversight and our oversight.
Very interesting. You talked about what you see makes change makers. You talked about cooperation between various portions of society. Andreas, you talked about what you thought makes change makers, be it state capitalism, which can get in the way, or basically driving forward in terms of technology as well as some other things. I want to ask our other panelists, and I want to introduce them very quickly to you. Jaakko Eskola, he's the president of Wärtsilä Ship Power. He's an executive vice president of Wärtsilä Corporation. We also have Walter Kavam, president and CEO of Kongsberg Gruppen. Koji, of course, has already spoken. He's the Secretary General of the IMO. And Henrik, of course, was with the Innovation Awards. Henrik Madsen, Group CEO of DNV. Henrik, I want to ask you and all the others, how do you think you're a change maker or your organization is a change maker? Very quickly.
Yeah. I think one important role we have is to set standards and to qualify new technology. Because really to bring new technology out, there should be standards and there should be ways to manage the risk. So I think that's one important role we have. Another important role is to challenge the industry with new ideas, new innovative ideas. I mean, we'll not design or build the ships, but we can challenge the industry to adopt new technologies.
Walter.
I think that one important aspect of the suppliers is to make technology available. I think a key question is that very often we see that technology is already available across the industries, but not taken into use in the industry to the extent it could be. So the uptake of technology, making it available in collaboration with the users and other partners, is an important contribution.
Jaakko.
As a technology provider, I think it's a. Is this mic working?
Yeah. The technology is working. Yes.
Great. As a technology provider, there are the regulations and there are the standards providers, and we need to provide the technology, and it's not only to provide the technology, but also to provide it in the most competitive with competitive standards.
Yeah. You just raised a very interesting point. You're basically saying, we have the technology, we don't always use it. Why don't you think we're always using the technology we have? Andreas, do you think it's merely a cost issue?
I think cost is a big factor, but it's back to what we were discussing earlier, which is this, that everybody has to be on this same playing field, otherwise they incur costs that put them out of business. So when we talk about pushing through change, I think one element is finding the new innovations and technologies. The second one is collaborating with peers. The third one is having a regulatory framework, but trying to do it all by ourselves is very difficult.
You mentioned regulatory framework, and Koji, I want to ask you a quick question because I want to challenge you. Because what you said was the IMO, the shipping industry is leading society in terms of the environment. All right? I want to challenge that because I think I read something recently. You're delaying NOx. You're delaying ballast treatment systems. Is that leading society?
Well, that's
It's on.
on. Okay, that's a really good question. I love that sort of question. You asked whether the IMO is a change maker. But in my view, we are the part of change makers, but we are facilitators. But certainly, we need to ensure a global standard, international regulation. That will ensure the level playing field. Without that, the industry cannot make a proper investment. So it is important that IMO continue to set the global international standard. And once we set a goal within the International Maritime Conventions, we need to maintain the goals. Otherwise, that may make a damage for the credibility. And you mentioned the NOx and the ballast water. And that's right, but when it comes to the NOx technical code, there is a discussion, but you have taken note of the very recent discussion, but that was not yet decided. We will further consider. When it comes to the ballast water, yes, technology was late, but member government of IMO has determined to put the convention into force. So I'm sure this year, within the Assembly of International Maritime Organization, we will make a breakthrough agreement to move into the implementation of ballast water convention.
Are you that confident, Andreas?
I hope it's true because right now we see the U.S. has
That's
moved
not
ahead.
what I asked. You don't have to be tactful. We're among friends here. Yeah.
I hope it's true.
You
We
hope
see
it's
the U.S. having moved ahead, and now we're faced with this choice. What do we do when we build new ships, when we retrofit old ships? Do we follow the U.S.? So this is, again, where it's so important we keep a steady front, a steady pace. And I think in this case, the U.S. has decided enough waiting, let's move ahead. That's right.
Henrik, I know you're very disappointed on the NOx.
Yeah, I think the NOx, maybe it was just a working accident at IMO that will be corrected next time. Because I think on NOx there are no arguments for not going ahead. The technology is there. There's strong scientific evidence that you can save a lot of premature deaths and asthma and other respiratory diseases. And it's for new ships, so even if it starts at 2016, it'll still take a long time before it's implemented. Yeah. So I think it's just a working accident. You will correct next time.
You're very polite here. Okay. Jakob.
I think it's the word is predictability, and we as a technology providers we spend a huge amount of money on R&D, looking at the regulations coming into force and developing the ballast water management systems or the catalysts or the exhaust gas cleaning systems, and if you spend that money and the regulation is changed, I mean, is that the level playing field?
No, not at all. And Peter, I want to ask you something because, you know, Andreas mentioned sort of you're moving ahead. They're still waiting. Yeah. But the thing that I want to ask you about is, you know, how do you balance his need? And you've got a tough job, a very tough job, okay? Trying to build consensus in the IMO, okay? Versus your need for national interest. You know, it's tough trying to get this global consensus.
Well, it is tough. The first step is to try to do it in a way that at least matches the discharge standard. So we've done that. The US and the IMO standard, discharge standard are the same. Where we differ is on the testing and approval of the systems and in the fact that we are moving forward, as you mentioned. It's hard to overstate how critical an issue invasive species are for the United States right now and for the many coastal states that are dealing with it. We have some of our harbors are some of the most invaded in the world, and it's caused some significant damage. So I think the national interest is that we can't wait any longer because of the damage that's been done. But we're attempting to work very closely with the IMO to ensure that the standards are the same, and that ultimately we hope that the testing and the approval standards are the same as well.